This is your before and after story. Instead of imagining a rewarding career in medical imaging, Southeastern College can actually take you there. Prepare for a career in ultrasound, radiology, and X-ray technology with hands-on specialized training, simulations, and real-life experience with the latest imaging technology. You'll be ready to play a vital role on any healthcare team. Transform your life by helping others. Southeastern College. Your future is bright. Visit scc.edu to get started.
You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family, DNA ID, Zodiac Speaking, Scene of the Crime,
Beyond Bizarre True Crime,
Citizen Detective,
and Campus Killings.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss a missing persons case on this podcast, please be sure to visit missingpersonspodcast.net. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances, and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to search for their missing loved ones, in some cases even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us.
Please stay tuned at the conclusion of this episode to hear about our Patreon program and our commitment to help find people who have gone missing. We'll also share with you where you can find more information and how you can join our team and help our efforts. You'll get recommendations for other podcasts we think you'll enjoy, and more.
So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing.
Episode 62, Michael Havekost. Michael Howard Havekost was born on August 15, 1968. As a young child, his parents discovered that he suffered from auditory challenges, and he was fitted with hearing aids that he wore daily from a very young age. Mike also experienced some developmental delays from birth. Although he experienced significant cognitive challenges, he was able to graduate high school and retain employment. The Havekost family lived in Indiana, but Mike's sister Sarah Hawley, who is our guest today, relocated to Killeen, Texas. Killeen in Bell County is about 150 miles south of Dallas. The city has a population of approximately 120,000 people. It's best known for the large military base there, Fort Hood. When Mike and Sarah's father died in 2017, Mike was left living alone in Indiana with no family support. So Sarah made arrangements for Mike to relocate to Texas to live near her. She helped him to get an apartment and a job at Killeen's Old Chicago Pizza. Mike was able to live on his own, but he required assistance on some aspects of daily life, so Sarah and he checked in with each other on a daily basis. But Sarah tells us she does not know who Mike might have befriended while living in his apartment complex. She doesn't believe Mike would seek out people who were disreputable, but he was impressionable and easily manipulated by others. Mike was one of millions of Americans who lost their jobs during the COVID pandemic. Sarah didn't realize that he was not able to pay his rent and that he was homeless for a brief amount of time before she was able to get him into a motel as temporary housing. Starting in June 2020, she paid for him to live at the Day and Night Inn at 6200 East Veterans Memorial Boulevard in Killeen. Sarah stopped by the motel to pay the bill in person on a weekly basis. She would always check in on Mike on these Monday visits to the Day and Night, and if she was late, he would call her. By September 2020, Mike had been living at the Day and Night for several months, and he knew the owners and was friendly with the staff. He even helped with menial tasks around the motel, like taking out the garbage. On September 7th, Sarah went to the motel to pay the bill for the upcoming week, as was customary. But Mike didn't answer her knock at his door, which was very unusual. She assumed he was in the shower or out, and she left. She was occupied for the week, and it was the 14th before she was able to return. To her great surprise, Mike was still not around. The motel owners had not seen him since the 4th. Sarah was able to access Mike's hotel room, and she was shocked at what she found. There was no sign of anything amiss at all, no evidence of struggle or anything pointing to foul play. But all of Mike's things were present in the room, and this was down to his glasses, which he wore regularly, and his hearing aids, which he relied on to hear. His medication was sitting in the bathroom, his sneakers were on the floor, and his wallet was there. The only things that Sarah could tell were missing were a set of clothing and Mike's slides. It basically appeared that Mike had just stepped out for a moment, except that moment had turned into 10 days. Sarah filed a missing persons report with the Killeen Police Department that day. The Killeen police, who have seen their share of missing people, were not overly eager to get involved in Mike's case. They thought it very likely that he had walked off somewhere. Their predominant theory was that Mike had left and they would find him living in a homeless shelter or encampment in the area. But that hasn't happened. Mike Havekost has disappeared without a trace. Mike's sister Sarah finds the whole idea of Mike leaving on his own to be out of character for him. Mike wanted to move to Texas to be closer to her, even if he were homesick for Indiana or got an urge to try to head to Green Bay, Wisconsin to search out his beloved Packers. He would not and could not leave without his wallet, glasses, and hearing aids. Sarah told KDHN News, quote, "I moved him to Texas. He wanted to move here because we were the only family he had left. Why would he run away from that? None of it makes sense. He's never done this before. The best case scenario is that he's homeless somewhere," she said. "But I just can't believe that he wouldn't take his wallet with him." Sarah says her brother also used to spend a lot of time walking in the community. It remains very possible that Mike made friends on these walks with someone Sarah doesn't know. It's also possible that someone saw him walking and was able to lure him into a vehicle. Either way, with Mike's friendly nature, naive trust of others, and near total deafness without his hearing aids, it would be easy for someone to prey on him. Mike did not have a cell phone at the time of his disappearance, so unfortunately, GPS technology cannot be employed to track him. He was familiar with social media but had no way to access it and has not had an online presence since he vanished. The day and night motel also did not have surveillance cameras in place, so no one knows where Mike went, when he left, or if he was alone. Killeen police actively engaged on the case too late to make much use of tracking dogs, and Mike didn't drive, so either he left on foot or someone picked him up in a vehicle. Further, he didn't have access to money, so if he left on his own, he would quickly have had to rely on the charity of others to survive. This case bears some startling similarities to another case we covered fairly recently, the 2015 disappearance of David Cohen. David was last known to be at a pizza restaurant next to the Red Lion Motel in Southampton, New Jersey, where he had just checked in on the evening of April 20th, 2015. David had a vehicle and resided out of state, but, like Mike Havekost, he is believed to have vanished from his motel room without a trace, or to have left with someone. No trace of either man has ever been recovered. Mike Havekost is described as being 5 foot 8 inches tall, weighing about 160 pounds, with bald or very short blonde hair and hazel eyes. He wears prescription glasses and hearing aids, but doesn't have either of them with him. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Mike Havekost, please call the Killeen Police Department at 254-501-8800. Mike Morford sat down with Mike's sister, Sarah Hawley, to talk about her brother's case. That conversation is coming up after a word from our sponsors.
Hi, Sarah, and thank you for coming on Missing Persons to discuss your brother Michael's case with us.
Hi, Mike.
Happy to have you here. I hope we can help you get the word out about Michael's case. There's definitely some strange clues and a little bit of a mystery going on here. Before we get into Michael's disappearance and what happened surrounding him actually going missing, can you tell us a little bit about Michael himself?
Sure. So we both are from Indiana. We grew up in Indiana, northern Indiana, so Goshen, Indiana. And Michael lived in Indiana his whole life. My dad passed away in 2017, and my family and I moved Michael to Texas with us because no one was left in Indiana of our family. So Michael actually graduated from high school and worked as a dishwasher in different restaurants, and then, just lived his life and worked, and then decided he wanted to move with us. And then he came and worked in Texas with us at a restaurant, and now we're just looking for him. So he's cognitively delayed. So, grew up like with special ed. He actually is deaf in both ears. So doesn't hear very well unless he has his hearing aids in, and that's been his entire life. He was born with those delays, because my mom had some problems during pregnancy they didn't know about. So, grew up pretty normal, but had some, like I said, went to special ed all through high school, but did graduate. And then, like I said, worked in Indiana at restaurants, was never on any disability because he was able to work. So never qualified for that. So, just trying to make what he could and work.
So when he moved from Indiana, he was living on his own. He didn't move in with you. He was living on his own when he moved. Right? When he
first moved here, he was living with us until he got the job and then was more on his feet. So he did live with us for about 6 months when he moved here in 2017. But then, yes, he did live in an apartment. But I was in contact with him every day by phone, or, would stop and see him because he did need me to help him some, if that makes sense. Wasn't always good with money,
yeah.
So would need me to kind of keep on him about certain things.
So you liked having him close by so you could help him out and keep an eye on him, sure.
Yeah. Yes, he needed that help.
He probably appreciated having you around too.
Yeah.
So how long was he living on his own when he went missing?
So he was on his own probably for a couple of years. Let me think about it. So he went missing in September of 2020. So May of that year, May of 2020 is when he lost his job, right during COVID. So I would say he lived on his own actually about a year and a half on his own in an apartment, met some people that he had, become friends with. And then, so from May to September, I don't know exactly what was going on during those times, like 2020.
Yeah, because it was during COVID and it was it's sort of a blur.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, and so he was living in this apartment. Did he move into a hotel at least temporarily?
He did. So May of 2020, I'm so sorry. So April of 2020, he moved out of the apartments and was, I'm not exactly sure what was happening for about a month. So June of 2020, he showed up at my door and had actually been homeless for about 2 weeks because he didn't have a job or anywhere to stay. So then that's when he was staying in the motel from June until September when he went missing because I was paying for the motel.
Okay, so you basically put him up in the hotel.
Because he had no money, yeah.
Sure.
Because he had nothing.
What was his, at the time, was he depressed? What was his attitude like during this time? A lot of upheaval and turmoil for him.
Yeah, it's hard to say because he wasn't very, very open. He didn't talk a lot about his emotions. He didn't seem depressed. He seemed himself, like how he would normally be. No, I would say he wasn't depressed. We were looking for another job. Like there were places helping us. The Texas workforce was helping us find him a new job, and we were working on that. So I would say he wasn't depressed. He was just his normal self, other than, some of the things he was going through. But I wouldn't say any different.
So you were just
normal.
basically helping him to get to the next step and figure out what he was going to do next. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, it wasn't like he was just, sleeping or, he was out walking around and doing stuff. So he wasn't depressed.
So this hotel that he was in the room that he was in, was it secure? Did he have any issues with anyone while he was there? Did he complain about any problems that he had with anyone?
No. So like I said, he had been there. So from June to September, right? So he was pretty familiar with the owners, the staff that worked there. I think he had become friends with some of them. No, everything was, like I said, seemed good. And like you said, secure. He, wasn't having any problems that I knew of with anyone.
Well, let's talk about when he went missing. How did you find out, and what were your initial thoughts when you found out?
A lot of bad things. So September 4th was the day we think he went missing. I didn't go back. I went there every Monday to pay for the next week of the room. So on September the 7th, I went there and paid for the room and talked to the owners because he didn't come to the door. So he would either be standing there waiting for me, because he knew I was coming, or he would, be in the room. So I went up to the room that week and knocked on the door, and he never came out. So I assumed, he must have went somewhere. And then I paid for the room and actually left some money there, left a $5 bill there for them to give him. And I came back on the 14th, so a week later, and they hadn't seen him for the entire week. So on the 14th, that's when I called the police. The police came to the room because, no one had been in the room. And they went in the room, and there was, all of his stuff was still in there. Even those hearing aids I was talking about, his shoes. So they came in there, and I don't think they did anything, just looked around. And then I filed the missing persons report on the 14th of September of that 2020.
It had to be very frightening to find out that from the hotel staff that he hadn't been there in a week.
Yeah. And they had looked certain places for him. And of course, no one found him. So probably for a week, at least a week, now forever, but they had been looking for him too.
Mm-hmm. And the stuff that was left behind in his room was personal stuff. You mentioned
everything.
His shoes, medicine, his glasses, his hearing aids,
his wallet.
Okay. So it's almost as if he walked out of the room and just left all his stuff behind.
Honestly, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
And was there any sign of the room being disturbed? Like there had been any kind of fight there or anything like that? Anything knocked over?
No, not knocked over. Even like I said, like you said, looks like he kind of just got up and walked out, because so his pants were sitting on the chair with a belt on there too. Like, so he must have like sweatpants or, bed clothes, his pajamas or something on. So didn't even, take time to put his pants on. So.
Did he have more than one pair of shoes?
So he had one pair of shoes, and then probably these like slides, like the kids wear.
Okay.
Like shower shoes. So those were the other pair.
So he may have been wearing those.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, something like the slides and some sweatpants and a t-shirt. Wow. What's been in my head.
So
because everything else was still there.
Yeah. So you're panicked. You file the police report. What did the police say early on? What did they have to say? Did they have any leads? Did they have any witnesses? Anything?
So it really took, at first, absolutely nothing. I'd never dealt with anything like this, right? Other than what we see on TV. But I assumed that they look for people. Well, they don't look for people, especially a 58-year-old or a 52-year-old man that they think just walked away. So no, it took me probably 2 weeks for them to even, say there was a detective on the case. And then she kind of started looking. I know she talked to some of the people at the motel, tried to see if there were cameras, and there weren't. So they, at first, they didn't do much of anything. I would say like probably 2 weeks later is when she kind of started looking into some things.
Yeah, you'd think they would want to, time is of the essence, that they would want to start digging sooner.
Yeah, I have always gotten the impression that they just feel like he walked away and is homeless somewhere. But to me, that doesn't make sense. I mean, we were in contact every day, and if we have fought in the past, he wouldn't go weeks without talking to me or years, right?
Yeah.
So
had he ever gone away before without saying anything?
No.
So it was
Never.
unlike him. It was definitely not in his character.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned early on it took them a while to start doing something. Once they started
Took a long time.
actively looking for him, did they do anything like look for surveillance video from local stores or residences or anything like that?
They did, but again, I think it was probably months after. Actually, I think it was probably close to a year after. So I don't think they found anything. There's a new detective now, and he has nothing, no leads. Pretty much is looking all the same spots that I've looked. I mean, you don't want to. I don't know. It's hard. The whole thing is really hard.
It seems very disheartening to sort of get started slowly looking for him, and then after all this time, still not have anything.
It's 2 years later. Yeah, absolutely nothing.
Were there any attempts for searches using dogs or anything like that?
So I'm not exactly sure when. I did do an article in the local newspaper, or well, I guess it's online now, but with someone here, Lauren Dodd. She did an article. They did say, because she was trying to because there are quite a few missing people from this area for the amount of people in this area. She was trying to get some information on that from the local police. And she did the article, and they did say that they had used the drones, and searched around the motel. But I would say it probably was at least 6 months after he had gone missing. So I don't know what they could have found.
Yeah. So
yeah, they have, but I don't think it wasn't right away. It was after me pushing for them to, look a little bit harder.
Well, that's the problem, is when you start looking using drones and stuff 6 months later, you've got...
Or a year. I mean, It may have even been longer. I mean, it just feels like it's...
Yeah.
Everything, it's like, hurry up and wait, I mean, and then time goes... It gets further and further away, right? And just, it's hard.
Yeah, because you've got the passage of time, you've got weather could have affected things.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You just don't know what could have passed in that time that could have eliminated any kind of clues. I'm curious, did your brother have any kind of friends or anyone maybe at the hotel that he confided in that were able to shed any kind of light on where he may have gone?
Not that we have found. We didn't have similar friends, so I don't know a lot of people that he knew. But there were people from, when he was living in the apartments that I think they need to talk to. And those people aren't willing to talk to the police. So, yes, I think that those people need to be, at least shed some light. Someone has to know something.
Is it because they haven't been cooperative, or police haven't approached them?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
Again, it's one of those things that that I have to push. They had actually told me they were going to put out a press release that they wanted to speak to this person, but they never did that.
Well, you talk about a press release saying I want to talk to someone, they could just go find them and talk to them. That doesn't.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, that's what I feel too. But I guess if you don't have if you have nothing saying that person knows this person other than me, than me saying, hey, talk to this person, I guess you can't really. Yeah, I don't know. It's very frustrating.
Were there any places, any things that Michael liked to do, any places he could have gone that I'm sure you racked this over in your mind a million times? Where could he have walked to if he did leave there on his own? Any place that you think he might have been heading?
So I know one of the last places that people have seen him was a McDonald's in around the area of the motel. But no, not anywhere like far away, he's a huge Green Bay Packers football fan. So maybe Green Bay, but no.
And it's got to be very frustrating for you because you're, obviously you thought enough to move him with you to be close to you so you could help him and keep an eye on him and stuff. And now you don't know where he's at or what happened.
Exactly. Or what happened. Yeah. No, lots of different things, I feel like he could have tried to get back to Indiana. But, we keep track of that. People are looking, because he would go back to somewhere he was familiar, I would think, right? Especially someone who hasn't ever been really anywhere by himself. It just doesn't make sense that he would have, found a way to get to Green Bay or back to Indiana, So
and he didn't drive, I'm assuming? He
didn't have a driver's license.
Okay.
Yeah. So he would have to have gotten somewhere with somebody, so
barring, hitching a ride,
he had no money
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very, perplexing. Just the fact he just sort of walked out of that room and
I think so.
Just
yeah. So,
no
and
clues.
I don't know. So I did, you were asking about the dogs. I'm sure you're probably familiar with, Texas EquiSearch.
Yeah.
So they search for people. So I did contact them, probably soon after he went missing. And they were willing to help look, but the Killeen Police Department never got in contact with them.
So they needed like the cooperation of the police.
They have to have the local police. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So again, you're sort of at the police's discretion as to what they're going to do and how fast they're going to do it. Well, so, here we are just past the 2-year mark.
Yeah, exactly.
Where does the case stand now? Is it just literally in limbo where you don't know anything more than you knew when he went missing? Exactly.
Yeah. So there was a detective before, right in the beginning, and there's actually the start of this year, I received a phone call, from a new detective who has been better at contacting me, but still has not found anything. So yeah, we're pretty much in the same spot we were 2 years ago.
What do you have any things that you'd like to see done that haven't been done that you think would be worthwhile in trying to find him?
I feel that they need to push harder on that person that I was speaking of, to at least talk to them, see if they have any thoughts or ideas, maybe, where he could be that I didn't know, or, other people that he might know. Yeah, I just really feel like they need to push a little bit harder on some of these people that may know or may have ideas of where he could be or what happened.
Yeah, and it's frustrating to listen to this because, sometimes there's something you can point to. Sometimes somebody is, maybe they have an addiction problem, or they're involved in crime, or they hang out with criminals. There's an element sometimes where you could point to it and say, okay, maybe we can look in this direction. But here, it doesn't seem like there's really anything to even...
Yeah. I mean, I would say Michael is very impressionable, right? So he could have been hanging out with people, like what you're speaking of, but, I don't know, I mean, that could be part of it, but still, someone's got to know. I mean,
yeah.
It's just like, again, like just completely fell off the face of the earth, and we know that doesn't happen.
Well, that's the thing.
Right?
See, if he, went someplace, let's say he walked someplace and he slipped and fell and he hit his head, well, where's his body at? Or
exactly.
Even if someone did something to him, where's his body? I mean, either way,
exactly.
It seems just strange that there'd be no sign of him. And the fact that all his stuff was left behind, like he just walked out the doors if he was going down the street and never came back.
That's exactly what it looked like. Yeah.
Very frustrating. Do you have any kind of social media pages or websites or anything set up for Michael's case that people can?
I do. Yep. It's on Facebook. It's called Find Mike, and it's public, so anyone can get to it.
Okay, so it's just called Find Mike.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's got the press release of his missing, his picture and stuff, and his height and weight.
Okay, we'll definitely
all
share
the information.
That.
Yeah.
We'll share that. We'll put that in the show notes so people can share his information and get it out there. It seems obvious that you've been advocating for your brother and been trying to get his case out there to get checked out and get attention for it, and we'll help you do that.
Thank you.
I hope for your sake, for your family's sake, for Michael's sake, that you find out what happened and that you have some kind of answers. And I appreciate you sharing this story with us.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, please contact the appropriate authorities.
If you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will help us grow and bring these cases to a larger audience. You can also help us by taking a moment to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about our Patreon program. If you visit patreon.com/missingpodcast, you can sign up to help this podcast through ongoing monthly support. As a thank you, we'll give you an on-air shout-out, a thank you card and sticker, plus you'll get early access to ad-free episodes of the show and any bonus content.
Your Patreon support also goes towards helping the missing, because every dollar that we earn through Patreon will be split with charlieproject.org, the wonderful website that's been sharing information about so many missing persons cases for years. We hope you'll consider supporting the show. Just a reminder that new episodes of Missing Persons air every other Saturday. If you want to find us on social media, you can search Facebook for Missing Persons Podcast. And we're also on Twitter with the handle @missing_pod. And of course, you can find us on our website, missingpersonspodcast.net. On behalf of Jess Betancourt, this is Mike Morford saying thanks, and we'll see you next time on Missing Persons.
Missing Persons is produced under the name AbJack Entertainment by Mike Morford and Jessica Betancourt. It's hosted and edited by Mike Morford, with research and writing by Jessica Betancourt. Be sure to listen every other Saturday for an all-new episode of Missing Persons.